One second. Okay, audio looks like it's working. Okay, what is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. So, so first of all, is the audio? It looks like it's working perfectly. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go ahead and first undeafen me into Discord. So, ladies and gentlemen, um, we have a lot to talk about. So, tonight we have Tropical Depression 2 in the Bay of Campeche. Last year, on June 28th, 2024, we had Tropical Depression 2 right there. And that night was Tropical Storm Beryl. Could we see a similar situation where we see Tropical Storm Barry tonight? That is what we are going to be discussing. While the odds of that aren't particularly likely, I thought that would be a good intro. So, without further ado, Yoshi, go ahead and introduce yourself to the stream. Say hello.
Hello, I'm Yoshi. I am the tropical weather analyst here, I'd say, for the streams.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We have some stuff to talk about tonight. So here's the situation that we have. Tropical Depression 2. It is currently over the Bay of Campeche right here. It's currently maximum sustained winds at 30 miles per hour, minimum central pressure of 1,011. Its current location is 19.5 degrees north, 94.7 degrees west, and it's moving west-northwest at 7 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and briefly take a quick look at the public advisory very quickly. Some intensification is forecast over the next day or so, and the depression is forecast to become a tropical storm before reaching the coast of Mexico. So a lot of this also is from Hurricane Hunter reconnaissance since they were out earlier today. And Yoshi, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to discuss what kind of the developments that have been going on and maybe some of the other developments that may be ongoing that we need to watch out for tonight. So Yoshi, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Hello. As I've said, I am the tropical weather analyst here for Storms United. And tonight we're looking at Tropical Depression 2. Pat has already mentioned a lot about it. It's 30 miles an hour. It is currently going west-northwest at 7 miles an hour. It's expected to kind of take this northwest kind of pattern into Mexico, giving it a bit more time than we originally had. So, first off, let's go over the basics, all right? We already went wind speed, where it's going. Let's talk about its structure real quick. I'm Pat. I am going to share my screen, which is KVOAX.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, I got
should
it
be
for you right
should
here.
be up there. Awesome. So this is, you may notice it's a bit different. Not all the satellite is there because they decided to put something called a meso on it, which pretty much how our satellites weather satellites work is that you can put specific meso locations on it that instead of updating every 10 minutes, it updates every minute or so, minute or two. And this helps us a lot in tropical weather forecasting because despite the very large nature of tropical cyclones, sometimes they can advance a lot. They can change a lot. So this is going to help us out a good bit here. And as we see, we do have convection in the middle. We have convection all around it, really. It doesn't look half bad for a tropical depression, honestly.
Yeah.
And, the NHC does believe that it will become a tropical storm by, let me head to discussion here, 24 hours. So therefore, that is going to be about 5 p.m. tomorrow. Sometime between 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. tomorrow. Which is very broad, I know. That's just how the NHC, does things. But it does have the time, it looks like. It does have the environment. So, one of the things that we said on yesterday's stream is that wind shear is going to be a massive problem. We noted that a lot, right? So, You might be thinking, well, how isn't it being sheared right now? It kind of is being sheared. It's in that environment where it's supposed to be sheared. But the shear isn't affecting it a lot. Let me get a message from one of my friends here, someone I shouted out
Go
yesterday.
for
He's
it.
very great. And I'm trying to find it. I should have prepared a bit more, honestly, but it should be somewhere around here.
Yep. Yeah, you
You
take
know
your
what? Let
time to
me
get
just
that.
search up
That's from Andrew Austin
shear.
Adler, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Also, quote, all right, quote, as of 2:54 p.m. So it's quite old, but I can tell you a lot of the things he says here still apply. Also, given how shallow the convection is relative to the effective shear layer, 35 knots at 200 to 500 millibars and divergence aloft, effects of said shear look to be pretty negligible. Now, to a lot of you, it might sound like a whole lot of slop, which at first to me, it did sound like a whole bunch of slop. But pretty much, the convection here, what we're seeing, the clouds aren't high enough for the wind shear to actually affect it. There can be different amounts of wind shear on different levels. And the wind shear that we're seeing here is way more up in the atmosphere than a typical sheared storm setup.
Yes.
The clouds are not reaching that level of the atmosphere, which means that the shear won't knock the tops off and therefore the structure will stay intact. So it looks like, because wind shear is there,
Yeah.
but basically the storm can't get up to the wind shear. It won't allow itself for one reason or another. And also the fact it is a very tiny system means that if there is any small corridors, especially for one we talked about yesterday in the wind shear, it
Yeah.
could go through those fairly cleanly. And that if it gets in a good enough environment, it can strengthen fairly well here. And it looked to be doing that earlier today, right?
Yeah.
Because earlier today we noted a low level circulation with this that was looked at on satellite, radar, and observation stations in Mexico here. And Recon then dropped the final ball here, as I would say, and confirmed that there was a loosely together but still there LLC,
Yeah.
right? So that means that it was it was given the right convective pattern, which it had, then it would be a tropical depression. And it was announced 3 p.m. I believe that they would start doing advisories on that.
Yep. Right after my video
And
went out.
yep, and so we got the discussion over here, Tropical Depression 2 forecast discussion for number 1. This is at 5 p.m. EDT, where most of you are, 4 p.m. CDT if you're a bit more in the central U.S. The area of low pressure that has entered the Bay of Campeche early this morning in West 91L has slowly improved in organization through the day. Convection had been mostly bursting on the southern portion of the circulation, but is more recently starting to fill in over the northern side. An Air Force Reserve reconnaissance, our recon plane, has been sampling the system this afternoon, and they were able to close off the circulation center, which is really important with these systems. A lot of you know that you have to have a closed circulation with this. Albeit with not a whole lot of wind. The wind field matches a satellite-derived speedometer wind data at 1619 UTC, which showed a closed circulation, but with peak winds of only 24 knots, or about 28-29 miles an hour. However, given the improvement in convective organization for well-defined circulation noted, advisories are being initiated on Tropical Depression 2 this afternoon, with maximum sustained winds of 25 knots, 30 miles an hour, matching the T1.5 25 knot, 30 mile an hour estimate provided by TAF-B. So they started off with 30 miles an hour, and so far they have done one more advisory, Advisory 1A, which they do these intermediate advisories for storms that are about to landfall here, and they kept it at 30 miles an hour due to the fact that it wasn't organizing that much. It still was organizing, but incredibly slowly here. So they noted that and said, oh, it's still 30 miles an hour, which we kind of expected we weren't expecting it to go up to 35 miles an hour until I believe it's 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to see 35 mile an hour initialization at 11 p.m., I'd imagine,
Okay.
unless the fist thing does not strengthen at all, which is a possibility looking at how it has done over the last few hours. But honestly, I don't see any reason why it would start up again. It could do that any time. So let's just see here.
Yeah, for sure.
That's about what we have here at
Okay.
the moment, other than the fact that we have some more modeling on it, which basically all the models do suggest a formation, which has occurred. So whether it forms or not is no longer the question. The question would be, well, the questions would be how much time does it have and how much can it strengthen?
Pretty much.
And that's the main question for tonight. And the NHC believes it could get up to tropical storm status with about 40 miles an hour at a 24 and 36 hour, 35 knot, 40 mile an hour. So, and I would read all of the discussion, but it has a lot of technical terms and
Yeah.
it's very, very long. We want it to be only an hour tonight. We're already
Sure.
15 minutes in. So
Don't worry about it.
basically what we have is wind shear, which it is not getting to. So that's favorable for it.
Yeah.
Very favorable sea surface temperatures. NHC is saying 28 to 29. I'm seeing more 27 to 28, but good for them, I guess.
Let's take a quick
So
look at your SSTs real quickly,
Mhm.
just to vet it all. Using Yoshi's website, it's been a blessing, but yeah, looking at it, it's around that 27 to 28 degrees Celsius for sure, but it's firmly going to be in 28 Celsius at least until it makes landfall, at least for the time being. So yeah, about what the range you were putting it at. So please
Yep.
continue.
So, but basically, what it all boils down to is this last tiny, like, couple of sentences by the National Hurricane Center. Given the forecast for the depression to become a tropical storm before landfall, the government of Mexico has issued a tropical storm warning for a portion of the eastern Gulf coastline. And if we look at the map here, I'm going to go to the map, and we look at warnings and surface wind, we do have a warning here, a tropical storm warning that it doesn't tell me from where to where, which is very interesting. I don't like
Yeah.
that. But sure. So if you hear the key messages, tropical storm conditions are expected on Sunday for portions of the Gulf Coast of Mexico, where a tropical storm warning is in effect. Heavy rainfall associated with Tropical Depression 2 will impact portions of northeastern Mexico. This rainfall may produce isolated flash and urban flooding. And once again, we do have an actual map, which is rainfall potential.
All right.
So in the counties of Tamaulipas, I believe, and San Luis Potosi, and this unnamed county, it doesn't have a name on the map, man.
Yeah.
We have isolated areas of up to 10 inches, general area of at least 6 inches here
Yes.
in general,
Yep.
and a very widespread area of at least 4-inch rainfall or 100 millimeters. And some areas could go up to 10 inches, which I believe is about 175 millimeters. So that is going to be an absolute ton of rainfall.
Oh, absolutely. It
That
is.
could create landslides. I believe especially the inner portions of this area are mountainous.
Yoshi, the
So that could
region
be.
to the south of Tamaulipas is Veracruz. Just to let you know.
Thank you, Veracruz. All right, awesome. Someone say that?
Oh.
Oh, someone did say that. Awesome. Okay. Thank you to whoever said that. The
PM.
Hebrew guy.
Yep.
All right, so we have a lot going on here, multiple frets. I thought we would only get a rainfall fret, but now that we know it's going to be slightly stronger system, maybe. That's at the ceiling here. Um, I do also see some wind threats, especially if it does get up to 45, 50 mile an hour range, which some models want it to. So, yeah, looking at rip currents here, Mexico doesn't make any rip current things, but we do have one in Tallahassee. That's more than likely something
That's a
that is not due to this system.
yeah. That's
Not
most
sure what
likely.
that's from.
It's most likely from another system that the GFS and other such interesting runs are indicating. But we'll get that. But that's something we'll talk about another time. Tonight's
Get to
PTC.
that in the last like 15 minutes, or if we run out of
Sure.
ideas before then.
Yeah, we shouldn't though. But yeah, we'll definitely look at that.
Yeah, let's go look at. It's looking for stuff here.
But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that. We don't really have any wind history because we have no history of tropical storm or hurricane winds. Wind speed probabilities, at least for tropical storm wind speed probabilities, we're approaching, at least according to this graph, this is 5, 10, 10, 20, 20 to 30%, but NHC has this thing moving up and actually becoming a tropical storm, so we'll have to see how this will pan out, but yeah. Do you have anything else that you were looking at for in terms of NHC?
Nothing else in terms of NHC. I think unless if we want to read the entire discussion.
Um, let me look at I'll I'll take a quick look at the. I've read a little bit of it. I'll take a look at the highlights of it. Um, you,
We could also for the last 30 minutes or so, we could focus on our little Florida system that's on models, since I just saw a post on it. It's very interesting.
yeah.
But we're going to talk about that later.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. I want to go over what we know about TD2 first and see how it's going to pan out. But here's some of the discussion right here. I do want to point out.
Oh, hold on.
Oh,
I want to make a correction
go ahead.
that someone in chat has made, and I do apologize.
Mm-hmm.
10 inches is not 175 millimeters. It is 250.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, 175 millimeters would be about 7 inches, which, when you're comparing flooding, 7 inches and 10 inches of flooding, I mean, that's that's a pretty decent difference, but it's still gonna be a lot of flash flooding regardless. So yeah, so we'll have to see
Yeah,
what happens.
absolutely.
So
Just seeing if there's any other things here. All right. Does anyone have any, while we wait, does anyone have any questions on this system specifically?
yeah,
Anything else like the general hurricane season we're going to talk about later? Anything on this specific system?
Yeah, on this specific system, if you have any questions in the chat, feel free to type them in. Looking at satellite imagery, it does have at least some consistent convection near the core of near its core. But the question is, how is it going to evolve going forward, and how is this going to kind of allow the system to start to get its act together? And yes, you are seeing visible satellite as of right now. I have it pulled up right here. It's ultimately, at least over the last 40 minutes, you're continuing to see this convection continuing to blow up. But the main question I have going forward is, is it going to sustain itself, and is it going to allow for more organization for it to happen, for it to kind of take place throughout tonight? And also, Yoshi, one more thing: the hurricane runs are absolutely cooked on Tropical Depression 2. We can't use them because they are not initializing pretty well at that area. So we'll have to see
No, I
how
haven't
this will
checked
pan
them
out.
yet. Ever since I haven't checked them yet. Ever since this is 5 p.m. Ooh, that don't look good. Wow,
What's up?
they're going right to 95E.
Oh,
That's weird. It goes right to 95 Invest 95E in the
yeah,
Eastern Pacific.
yeah. I was
At least
looking
on
at
HWolf. Let me see if
it's
HAFSA
it's
does
every
a
single
slightly
run
better
on
job.
18Z.
Every single run?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yep.
Let's see if we can use parents. Let's see.
Let's yeah, let's see if we
Not
can.
looking too bad here. And yeah, it doesn't even form it as a viable system.
Yeah,
HFSA doesn't do that.
it's cooked.
This is just insane. HWolf parent doesn't even have 91L yet, which is just insane to me.
Yeah, that's why I say
See,
models are one thing, conditions are a whole other
yeah.
ballpark.
Yeah, we're not looking at this because we literally can't.
Yeah. Yeah, Weather Kingdom is in the
Goodness.
chat right now. Yeah, I think we could see a small tropical storm, 40 50 mile per hour winds. That's where I'm generally agreeing with right now. I think 45 is the max the system could go unless something unexpected happens again, which I hope doesn't. But ultimately, I think 45 is where this is going to cap out, Weather Kingdom. So, yeah, he's in the chat. It's man, we're having a lot of people come in tonight. It's gonna be pretty fun. But yeah,
Yeah, let me see how much people actually. 41 it's saying so
yeah, we
far.
have 45.
It's never been in a good like one.
Yeah, we have
Awesome.
we have 45 people in chat, so it's been pretty interesting.
Ooh.
Um, but yeah, anything else you want
I
to
will
go over? Go
say
ahead.
closer to the center here, we are seeing some convection bursts. I'm not sure if it's exactly on center. I'm trying to figure that out, but it does look to be kind of wrapping around it, which is very interesting.
That's
No one
a
is
step up.
talking about it. Okay, that's weird. No one's talking about it.
Yep. So this will be interesting going forward.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on Dapia right now. Seeing it. Yeah, it looks like there's a couple bursts of convection both to the north and to the south of the apparent core of this that are starting to go off.
Mhm.
We'll have to pay attention to that in the next little while. Could this weekend and so
Yeah.
Zim's asking, could this weekend enter the Eastern Pacific Basin and become a separate storm? No, it's going to be
No.
moving over mountains in Mexico. It's going to dissipate over there. So the answer is
Whatever
no.
energy is going to be in there is going to get pushed out by Invest 95E, which would be there by then,
Yeah,
and then push it up into the Gulf of Mexico, New Mexico, which may enhance the monsoon season there actually. Some people there may be happy, very happy. Um, so no, it won't go into EPEC, but it will affect the desert, Mexico and New Mexico. So
yeah,
fun to see.
yep. Someone's asking if we can see the core yet. You can. I mean, there's not exactly
Core.
a quote unquote core with this. It's not even a tropical storm, but you can somewhat see
Yeah.
the the center of it a little bit
Center.
and how the convection is trying to wrap around it. But hold on one second. Let's see. Uh oh, the heck is
While
going
you
on?
do that, we got David here saying, when do you think these convection bursts will become permanent instead of being pop-ups? Honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised if these were just pop-up convection
Yes, agreed.
its entire life, honestly.
Yeah,
Like it could become permanent, but it's probably going to be in like the last 6 hours of its life, assuming good conditions, which we can't assume with this system, honestly, looking at how the conditions are. So we're just gonna have to look and wait,
yes.
because if it does get better, taller convection, then wind shear is gonna mess it up and break that, and the system will collapse. So the so very ironically, first time I've ever had to say this, but like pop up shallow convection would actually be better for this system than taller permanent convection. Then it won't get its top sheared off and lose its structure. So I do. And just the general environment, I do believe that it will be just pop up convection its entire life.
I agree 100%. But yeah, in this case, pop-ups are good and sustained convection is not so good because all of this is underneath a huge area of wind shear. Yes, there's a pocket of low wind shear close to it, but if it stays below the wind shear, it's probably going to be even better for it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see how this pans out. But okay, if we don't have anything else on this, are you ready to move on to the quote unquote fun stuff, Yoshi?
Fun stuff.
Yeah, talking about
Hold on.
yep,
I wouldn't call it. Oh, this is on the GOM system. So there's
yes,
a whole bunch of questions on the GOM system here. Yeah,
yes.
hold on. Let me do something.
You take your time with that, but yeah, we're gonna shift our focus to our GFS interesting fun time golf system that maybe or maybe not be happening in the next little while. So we're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be shifting that, but be sure to like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. Any support is very much welcome. The support on the video today was absolutely crazy. Thank you very much for checking that out. We really appreciate that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But going forward, Yoshi, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours. But ultimately, yeah, he's deafened. But basically, yeah, okay, okay, never mind. He'll be back in a second. But ultimately, the situation we are dealing with is we're looking at a potential Gulf system slash Eastern Atlantic system that may be developing in the next little while or so. I would start paying attention to it around the 4th of July from according to some runs. And, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Hurricane Specific and see if I can map out how this is going to ultimately go because I do know that this is going to be kind of coming off of a decaying front, and I do know that from then on out is when we start potentially seeing some warm core development. Now, I do want to take a look at some models with what's potentially coming up. We're going to go ahead and go to the Western Atlantic. I start with the European. I do want to take a look at this to kind of see, okay, what are the models picking up on exactly, and how can we potentially see this going forward? And also, what kind of conditions are we seeing as well? So ultimately, here's the European. You have some convection starting to fire off a little bit here and there, but ultimately you do start to notice maybe something potentially developing. But the European, interestingly, does want this to move kind of inland and into like Georgia and South Carolina and those areas. So that's going to be interesting to see how this will pan out and how this will ultimately execute, at least according to the European. Now, looking at the GFS, oh boy, this is the fun stuff right here. Looking at the 12Z first, you're looking at this setup. It's an interesting situation. The 12Z GFS does want this detaching from a front and then moving west towards Mississippi, Louisiana, and those areas. 18Z taking a look at that as well, seeing that the 18Z GFS has this detaching from that front, that stationary boundary, and then moving off Florida, starting with development starting potentially around 156 hours out, and then starting to organize and develop, and then really potentially crash into Louisiana, Mississippi as a appears to be a Category 2 hurricane. This is, in my opinion, quite unrealistic. If anything does develop with this, it's likely going to not be in the Gulf, but rather in the East Coast, mainly because of steering currents, wind shear, and all of that stuff. This is similar to Hurricane Barry of 2019, although it was in another quadrant of Louisiana when it made landfall. But that's what the 18Z GFS is going for. Pretty much a stronger repeat of Barry in 2019, as we are currently awaiting for Barry to get named in the Bay of Campeche. So that's what the GFS is going for. It's a little kind of hard for me to believe at this current point. Looking at the Canadian run, yeah, the Canadian run has this system forming off the East Coast, closed low, a tropical system potentially as it moves off the Carolinas, and it develops along the Gulf Stream, the very warm Gulf Stream, I will say, as well. Now looking at the icon, taking a quick gander at that. So the icon really it doesn't go out far enough at 18Z, but looking at 12Z, it does have something developing on the East Coast. So it looks like most model support does not have this forming in the Gulf, but rather along the East Coast. And it looks like Yoshi might be about ready. So, Yoshi, the floor is yours.
What have we talked about so far
We've talked
on
about the
this?
models and why the GFS is so outlandish, and we've kind of kind of lay down the law a little bit as to why we think the development is going to be where it is if it happens, pretty much, which is going to be along the East Coast, at least from what I've seen.
Awesome.
Yeah, so go
So
ahead.
I want let's get the basics out of the way first.
Yep.
All the models are saying that it is going to be a low pressure system that is going to move through Florida, north side of Florida, and then up the eastern seaboard here along the waters. So it's going to be a front. It's going to be a very much stalled front, though. That's the thing, and those type of setups can easily create something here.
Yep.
And we got a lot more talk about this system than we do O2L here.
Yep.
And well, I don't know why, but I guess it's just because it's way closer to home here.
Also, it's
So
happening on the 4th of July as well.
that is true.
So people are
That is
wondering,
true.
can we light our fireworks off? So.
No, no, you can't. No, you can't. I'm gonna tell you. I've one of the main thing I want out of for this segment, anyways.
Go ahead.
If you're gonna get anything out of this, either way, there development or not, there's gonna be heavy rain. Unless something changes drastically, there's more than likely going to be some heavy rain in Florida and along the eastern seaboard, like up through Georgia and the Carolinas, Virginia. And so, still, a lot of the concerns that we have with this system are going to be here if it forms into like a nameable system or not.
Yes.
So, we got something from Mitch West over here, 18Z GFS, anyways, traps energy in the Gulf and spins up development just after the 4th of July. One run, but the pattern late next week supports energy in this area. It ain't may no more, so it wouldn't surprise me. Quote from him.
All right.
And we can look at the models all day, but we also have Andy Hazelton on here. And you know, quote, I'd be surprised if we get something silly like the 18Z GFS, but it is worth watching the Northeast Gulf late next weekend of a holiday weekend as a weak front is left behind by a trough moving out of the northeast. Upper winds look vaguely favorable for something to try to develop if it stays over water, either the Gulf or southeast coast. The biggest hindrance would probably be the continual dry air wrapping in from the north,
Yeah.
which is going to be a slight problem here. Quote, also worth noting that the Gulf shelf waters have warmed up pretty rapidly this year and are already in the mid 80s, I believe 27. We got to go back to that SST map soon, thanks
me go ahead.
to a lot of upper ridging over the region.
Yeah, the SST map is absolutely diabolical in that part of the Gulf region. We're looking at 30 plus degrees Celsius waters over there in some areas along the coast.
Yeah.
86 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you living on the Gulf Coast.
Very, very healthy.
Yeah, that's
Very healthy.
that is a lot of warm water. But you also have, but at the
Absolutely.
same time too, this isn't too. This is water that's more of this is like more of in a shallower area along the Gulf. So that also explains why the water warms up a little faster and it's a little warmer over there. But still, 30 degrees Celsius, 31 in some isolated areas, like that is fuel city for anything that moves through there, whether it's a mesoscale type of system or it's this type of tropical system that forms along the front. Yoshi, please go ahead.
All right, let me share my screen once again
All right.
to the model website here that we have.
Okay.
And so let's go to model ECMWF. We're going to go to Central America, Gulf of the Gulf.
Yep.
And we are going to look for PWAT. Bam. So this is precipitable water. Pretty much how much moisture is in the atmosphere and how much of it can it rain or precipitate. So this is the main thing we look at when looking at tropical moisture here because it's really, really important. And ECMWF is actually really good at looking at this sort of stuff. So this
Yeah.
is our 102 here, and we see that a whole bunch of PWAT came down from Mississippi and Alabama, and now it's in the northeast Gulf of Mexico, right near the Big Bend of Florida and whatnot. And this is important because that means that it's gonna rain if there's clouds, and there's is literally coming from, well, a series of clouds, a thunderstorm complex, kinda.
Yeah.
So we get a whole bunch of PWAT over here, and purple basic, and we got purples and pinks inside of the reds here. So that is an absolute ton right here. That is above 2.6, which is a lot, I can tell you. What we normally get in Florida is 1.5 to 1.8 over the summer. So seeing this is just genuinely insane. And
Yep.
we normally only see these high PWATs in either very stalled fronts or tropical systems here. And it seems to want to be either of them on the models. It goes right over Tampa, and we have this system leave Florida by 162 hours, which is very interesting because earlier we noted that on, especially on GFS, it was closer to 240. So seeing it this early is going to be very interesting. And then it goes up right into South Carolina here.
Yep.
Now, this is one of the things where, sure, we get the stalled front, but we don't actually get it turned into a tropical system. But what if it did? GFS points out exactly that, although in an incredibly hilarious way, right? So, this is GFS right now, slightly lower quality. We get almost the exact same situation as we did on Euro, but way more widespread by hour 102. Just look at that. Compare that to a Euro, and we got, my goodness, it goes down into right next to Tampa Bay, and it kind of just stalls there out of southwest Florida here. And then this is right about where it turns into a tropical system. We see that banding feature over here.
Yeah.
And a giant banding feature. We probably see this as early as hour 168 over here.
Wow.
Right. So that turns, and you see the blues. You never see something like that unless you get a tropical system. That is easily above free on this scale right here.
Wow.
And that clearly denotes a very structured tropical system. And we see, if we look at 850 relative vorticity, bam. Now, I'm not saying it's going to do that, but it just shows that, something like a tropical system could happen, and we're just showing this off. And due to the enormous amounts of precipitable water we have, if the system goes through, it's going to rain an absolute ton.
Yeah.
Because the more PWAT and moisture you have, the more, and especially with heating, since it looks like, especially if it actually turns into a tropical system, then it has a warm core feature, and warm air can hold more water and therefore rain more than colder air can.
Yes.
So that means that, sure, if it does turn into a tropical system, it'll rain a lot more. But either way, cold core or warm core, it really doesn't matter in this case, just due to how much moisture is in the air by then.
Wow.
It's genuinely insane. And again, go back to precipitable water, just to see how widespread it is, if I can find it here. There it is.
There it is.
And yeah, just see it just off, even just right as it gets onto the coast here, slowly goes, and it's just genuinely crazy, I haven't seen something like this, even though this thing is kind of normal in these type of setups. Mainly, it's going to be a giant rainmaker. All right, but what about actual, ingredients? What is wind shear going to do? What are SSTs like? SSTs are going to be way above average, more than likely, unless something big happens. So that shouldn't be a problem. Let's look at wind shear for a moment. So our 102 is when it comes off here. And we do see that we have a bunch of wind shear down in Florida.
Yes.
However, as we go through it, we get less and less wind shear. Now, it does get into a slightly unfavorable environment, but that is because it is so strong that its own outflow is kind of like, I wouldn't say distorting, but like contaminating the maps. These maps can get contaminated easily through tropical cyclones. So, outside of like, if your storm is more than like 40 miles an hour, you shouldn't really trust it. But looking at the when it's supposed to TCG according to the GFS here, it's in a fairly low wind shear environment. And so, and after that week, it's not really reliable, so we don't really know. But looking at it, it does look incredibly interesting, honestly.
Yeah.
So what about other things? We looked at GFS, we looked at the main ECMWF. What about ensembles? Well, we got EPS cyclones to look at that, actually. Let's go to ENS MSLP SpaghettiOs. I haven't seen this, so you guys are learning along with me here about what it's saying. Remember, it only goes up to 144 on 18Z, so shouldn't see a lot.
No, we're not.
And we see nothing. So let's look at 12Z because that has up to 360. Gonna look here. We do see one thing come off here. That's not the system. I just realized we're at 126. And then we get a bit more coming off here,
Yeah.
but not much. I wonder why. Let's look at tropical depression because why not, right?
Sure.
And we see a giant thing of 120 hour, 144 hour, 168, 192, and then after that is just clown range.
Yes.
But looking at this, 144, this at 144 ain't too bad, honestly. Never mind, man. However, if we look at Tropical Storm, which filters out a lot of the very weak stuff that tries to claim it's a tropical system, then we don't get a lot. 192 here, we do get a bit of tropical storm things here, about 25%. And it's not too bad for what we're looking at, but this is the main reason why the GFS, NHC aren't looking at it that much so far because one, a lot of it is out of range,
Yes.
and two, because it doesn't really look like it's going to get going here that much. Come on, let's go to North America, please. Nope. How about Globe? Got North Atlantic. Do we have Tropical Atlantic? Yes, we do.
What are we looking for exactly? Precipitable water. Okay. Oof. We're at 16. Okay. Yoshi, are you there? This might. Hold on a second. There's nothing coming through from my end. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, I can't hear you. Okay. That's interesting. Alright. What the heck? There's... Hold on one second. Is it... Hold on. Hold on one second, guys. Let me do this. try to relaunch Discord. Okay, this is not particularly optimal. Oh boy. I can't hear him. Let me check. Oh, let me check voice and video real quick. Okay. Okay, that's not. Okay, that's not good. Yeah, we're having some VC issues. So. All right. Oh boy. Let me try this. Hello? Can you hear me? I'm sorry, guys. They have technical difficulties. Oh boy. Is this thing on? Testing, testing, testing. Hello? Okay. All right. Oh boy, that's a bit of a problem. So, there's not much I can do with that, unfortunately. I still can't hear you. Bro, this is... Okay. Okay, all right, let me try. Okay. Let me try disconnecting the entire stage and then connecting it again. Let's try that. Okay, this is not optimal. Just move out of here. Okay, this is not good. All right. Is it on my end? Let me see. Let me look at voice and video. Input's fine, output's fine. All right. Okay, this is not optimal. All right. It's not just me, is it? Okay, this is not good. All right. Fuck. All right. Yeah, we might have to. We might have to. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. As much as I hate to do this, we're gonna have to end the stream early because I can't hear Yoshi. Yoshi can't hear me, and this is something that we're gonna have to fix later. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning into the stream tonight. We really do appreciate it. Be sure to like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you want to help out, hang out, or join the Storms United Discord server, it's the link in the description down below. As always, any support is wonderful. But with that being said, have a wonderful night, guys.